So today I'm going to be working with Sonny on softening his mouth. And what that's going to look like is I'm going to start by taking the soft rope and actually putting it in his mouth so he becomes accustomed to having something in his mouth. You know, before I shove a metal bit in his mouth, I want to make sure that he's accustomed to the softness of a rope in there and begin to get him used to carrying something in his mouth and carrying it lightly and carrying it in a respectful manner. So let's get started. So I'm going to get started first with taking my rope, and I'm just going to drape it over the top of his pole, just like this. Then what I'll do is I'll pass one end of my rope through the loop of the soft rope. I'm going to slide it all the way down here. And then I'm going to just make another loop like that. And I'm going to take that loop, and just like I would with my bridle, I'm just going to hold it right over the top of my pony's head, just like this. So now what I'm going to do is, just like I do with a bridle, is I'm going to just ask him to open his mouth, and I'll start by gently applying pressure right in the corner of his mouth. Good. So he opened that mouth. I'm going to take a nice big deep breath. I'm going to step him back up here. But notice once he opened the mouth, I went ahead and I released, okay? Because he did good. He popped it right open for me. I don't want to just go jabbing things in there. I want to be respectful of him, let him know that he made a good choice by softening and opening up that mouth. He made some really good decisions. So now I'm going to go right back to it. I'm going to gently ask him to open that mouth up for me. There. And I'm going to slide that rope right in there. And you see him start to creep backwards. I'm just going to kind of float with him if he starts moving backwards. Now you can see him start to kind of chomp and play around with that rope. He's not accustomed to having that rope in his mouth. And that's the whole idea and point of this exercise, is we want to give him an opportunity to get accustomed to something soft being in his mouth, something that's not as intrusive as a metal bit. So I like how he's doing here. He's just kind of playing around with it, checking it out, chomping down on it, and all that's fine. He's doing great. He's not backing up. He's not kind of freaking out or overreacting. So I'm going to reward him for that by taking a nice big deep breath and dropping my bit, or in this case, dropping the rope right out of his mouth there. Okay, so I'm going to get right back to it. I'm going to ask him one more time here. I'm going to start with putting my hand right between his ears here. I'm going to gently go ahead and ask him to open up his mouth here. There. I'm going to slide that rope right in there. Now if he backs up, I'm going to float with him, but I'm going to step him right back up to where we started here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him a rub, let him know he made a good decision. Really important that right here I maintain just a touch of upward pressure into the corner of the mouth. Just enough to hold it there without adding undue pressure. I don't want to be yanking and pulling on it, but I want to make sure I keep that rope right in the corner of the mouth. If it's too loose, well then that's going to be even more uncomfortable for our pony. He's going to try to spit the rope out. I don't want to encourage that type of behavior, so I want to make it as comfortable for him as I possibly can. He's doing really well here. He's not just shooting back or acting anxious, but you can tell it's unusual for him, and he's trying to get accustomed to it and figure this out. But the idea here is to introduce this to him in a non-intrusive way before we ever even think about putting the bit in his mouth. There's some other exercises that we can do to start to soften that mouth with the soft rope, but we'll get into that later. For right now, work on getting your horse to soften to that rope and open up that mouth, and really nice and easy sliding that rope in there. If you get that mouth nice and soft for the rope, you're going to be on the right way to introducing the bit to him in the most positive way possible.